The Proteas have finally broken their World Cup knockout hoodoo. They beat Sri Lanka by 9 wickets in an absolute dominant performance in Sydney. I'm joined by Garen Lamley from Sport 24 to recap the day's action. Garen,
Hi, Nick.
good to see you once again.
You too. I'm glad
Our chat a couple of hours ago, there was a couple of nerves. Wow.
Fantastic performance all round. Can't be faulted. The only thing we lost was the toss. But from ball one, South Africa were in charge. The bowlers really stepped up. Started off Dale Steyn, Abbott, Morkel firing in short pitch bounces that had the Sri Lankans jumping all over the show. Followed up by duo of spin attack from JP Duminy and Imran Tahir. Fantastic performance by both of them. They picked up 7 wickets between them for 50-odd runs in almost 20 overs. We were worried about that 5th bowler, but they certainly put that to bed. Bowled incredibly well, bowled them out for 133. Then there was a case of, we're going to bat second, can we chase these runs down? And we did so fairly easily, to be honest. I mean, Hashim Amla, the only wicket to fall, played a bit of a rash shot, I think 3 balls before the dinner break.
And Quinton de Kock finally making runs when it counts.
Absolutely, he got the monkey off his back. He's really struggled throughout this tournament. But he, 78, I think it was, off next to no balls.
And 48 of those coming off boundaries.
Absolutely, and that's what we've come to know from him. He hits the boundaries, the 4s, the 6s, so gets us off to a rollicking start, which he did. We got there comfortably, going at almost 6 runs and over. So it bodes well for the rest of the tournament. Gives him a power of confidence to step up now. AB was talking about that he will still come good. He had all the faith in the world in his teammate, and it proved correct. The Sri Lankans do have a fairly good attack. They've got Malinga, who does all sorts of weird and wonderful things with the ball. Couple of spinners we hadn't seen before in the tournament. You never really know what they offer, but he handled all of those. And then obviously now looking ahead to the semi-final, he'll be like brimming with confidence, which bodes well for South Africa's chances in the tournament.
Yeah, spare a thought for Sri Lanka, Malinga getting the 1 wicket, but in the end being quite a bit expensive. And then, guys like Chamira, very expensive, 2 overs for 29 runs. Yeah. Were Sri Lanka just really not unsung today, or were they just completely outplayed?
I think a bit of both. They were outplayed. Even though they won the toss, they got to decide. They chose to bat. I think we always knew whoever won the toss was going to choose to bat, but they got off to such a poor start. They actually made a bit of a strange decision to move their number 6 batsman up to open the batting, drop the regular opener down the order. Didn't pay off. He got a duck, or he got 3. Dilshan at the top of the order was under pressure. He got a duck. Sangakkara came in at number 3 and took 30-odd balls to get a single run. So they're always behind the 8 ball. We applied the pressure. We bowled in long spells, which I think was key as well, rather than these short bursts, 3 overs for Steyn. He built up some pressure over a sustained duration of time. And, we really had them under the cosh from ball 1 and didn't relent at all. Bowled them out in 37-odd overs. Then that set up the match for the batsmen. They weren't under much pressure. They could come out and take some time. As it turns out, they didn't really. They were, went hard from ball 1, which was, a good thing. You don't want to be bogged down and sort of like 10 for 2 after 8 overs type thing. But got off to a flying start. Took advantage of the power play over. Hit some boundaries, as you said, de Kock in particular. So again, bodes well. The rest of the batting lineup got a massive break. Didn't have to do much. So now feet up until next Tuesday. A 6-day rest until we find out who we play in the semi-finals.
And probably also just important to note, Faf du Plessis not on 21 or 56 balls, very much playing, I guess, an anchoring role, and probably also just having that sort of mature head around, just I guess to calm Quinton de Kock's nerves, because he did have a point to prove.
Absolutely. He was going to play the rock innings, if you like. If Quinton didn't come off, then he would have been there, hopefully, to guide us through to victory. He obviously had a good show from the non-strikers in, watching de Kock blaze away, and it paid off. It came off for him. I guess he plays a high risk type of game. Any ball he looks like he potentially could get out to, but it came off for him today. Hasn't in the tournament to date. We all know he's well documented. He's played every match. Only been over 10 runs once, and that was only against the UAE, obviously not a powerhouse of cricket. But 78 today does him the world of confidence. Obviously if we were chasing more, he might well have got to that century again. But 78 not out. I thought he was a contender for man of the match. Went to Imran Tahir in the end for his 4 for 26, which basically set up the 133 all out, which allowed de Kock to sort of play his normal game.
So Karen, as you said earlier, getting the monkey off the back, Quinton de Kock getting the monkey off his back. What will this win, do you think, do for the Proteas in terms of their confidence and their sort of ultimate goal of winning the cup. How do you see them performing in the semi-final against either the West Indies or New Zealand?
Or New Zealand. Obviously, that game is in New Zealand. Again, the wicket's very different in Auckland to Sydney. Likely to keep a bit low, spinner as well, which is not sort of our forte when it comes to batting. If you look at New Zealand, they're obviously favourites to beat the West Indies. West Indies are obviously in with a shot. They could prove that, pull off an upset. But if New Zealand do go through, they've got some good bowlers that are top of the wicket taking charts. Tim Southee, Trent Boult bowling really well. They've obviously got veteran old Vittori in their attack as well. He's been there, done that many times. But I think South Africa take massive confidence. Now we've won batting second, albeit only chasing 133. Had Sri Lanka scored 250, it might well have been a different target. New Zealand's Brendan McCullum in sublime form as well.
Yeah.
If he does come off, and he's a bit like a Quinton de Kock, every ball he gives you a chance. But if he does come off, he can hit 100, 150 in next to no time. Then it will be interesting to see us chasing down a total in the mid to high 200s. But again, if we do win the toss, I'm pretty sure we're still going to bat first, put the runs on the board. That applies pressure. Put the ball in New Zealand's court if you like, and get them to chase down against our really impressive bowling attack. So I'm fully confident that we're going to at least do well, compete well, and even within a shout of reaching the final.
And without jinxing anything, on a crash course with Australia in the final, potentially.
Yeah, that is how I see this long-term panning
What a
out.
spectacle that might be.
Will be unbelievable. That Sunday the 29th, I think of March. Put it in the diaries now. Should be a fantastic game. Sold out MCG for the final, no matter who plays. Obviously, Australia still have to get past Pakistan. Then it looks like they're likely to play India.
Yeah.
They have had India's number of late. India toured Australia before the World Cup, and they beat them in pretty much every game. So, but they have come good. They did top our group. They are unbeaten. So, it's not a foregone conclusion. A lot of people talking about doing the cricket and rugby double. Obviously, if South Africa and New Zealand, that rules out the Springboks or the All Blacks. Then you've got the Wallabies. So, it'll be fantastic to see us knock over the All Blacks and the Black Caps, and then, take out Australia in the final.
Great. Thanks, Gareth.
Thanks very much, Nick.